Hello, welcome to the first episode of The Market Maven. Erica here, your market research consultant presenter. So the first product we did a study on is something many of us may be craving for in a hot summer weather. So we chose it because it's relatively easy, it's not gender sensitive, it's something enjoyably consumed by both the young and old, regardless of status. So can you guess what it is? It's ice cream. So we interviewed 100 survey participants asking one question. What ice cream brand first comes to your mind? To make the 100 sample participants as close to the realistic consumer base of any business, we made sure there's representation by gender, males and females. And we also split the respondents by age. So there are inputs from the young, the below to 21 age group, millennials and yuppies, the 21 to 30 and 31 to 40-year-old age bracket, the older segment, 41 to 50-year-olds, and with aged 50 plus to capture the varying age groups who may influence the sales of ice cream. So the distribution per age group is pretty balanced. Our selection criteria is loose compared to the more hardcore research typically required in market studies. Usually, full interviews are only green-lighted for participants who pass stricter qualifications, like this is an ice cream study. The participants must be eaters of ice cream or have purchased ice cream within the past 3 months or so, or that they are not diabetic. But those criteria apply depending on the study's objectives, like if there will be questions around flavor preferences or price points, or if there will be taste tests. But with our study in this episode, wherein we're only asking for top-of-mind brand awareness, so a less strict sampling criteria is acceptable. The location we chose to get sample consumers on for a slice of the huge ice cream market is Bonifacio Global City, also known as BGC. So admittedly, that's mostly out of convenience for us, but it's not without some scientific considerations too in ways reflective of the modern society with a globalized cultural structure. So it's a good melting pot of sorts with varying areas that enable cutting across different social economic segments and that have some local and foreign dwellers, etc. We approached people in open spaces where heat is more felt, so in a way the weather can influence a bit more passion when they recall and mention their ice cream brand responses. So we approached them in transport stations, smoking areas, open area food courts, parks, jogging areas, and outside the malls. The fieldwork dates are May 17 and 21, 2018, 2 days for 100 participants. And the results are only applicable for a limited time. Should we run the same survey 6 months from now, results may not necessarily be the same. So are you excited for the results? Probably not, or not as much as when you have or is a part of an ice cream business or is a market player yourself. But I bet it's still interesting regardless. Let's take a closer look at what's going on in the ice cream market in this side of the world. The top 3 brands mentioned by the people surveyed in BGC are actually, let's start with 4 to the topmost. So number 4 is Nestle with 7 responses. Number 3 is Cornetto with 8 responses. Number 2 is Magnolia with 14 responses. And number 1 is Selecta at 51 responses. So that's a little over half of all our attempt participants. Since the phrasing of the question is open-ended and pretty broad, what ice cream brand first comes to your mind, we didn't specify if it's ice cream by the gallon or in pre-packed cones found in supermarkets alone, or from independent ice cream shops like Dairy Queen or Baskin-Robbins, or whether we are asking for locally produced or imported ones. So as a result, we get responses of ice cream brands of various sorts. Some, like 3 brands in our top 4, is the manufacturing company, which were mentioned. some, it's a specific ice cream brand from the manufacturing company or is a sub-brand of our top responses. This is also regardless of distribution channels or the product or brand's presence in where we are conducting the survey. Selecta, the leading brand in this survey, is actually a dairy products brand, not solely selling ice cream alone. As per Wikipedia, the milk business is run by the Philippines-based RFM Corporation, while the ice cream business is operated in joint venture with the multinational firm Unilever. Magnolia is a food and beverage brand owned by Philippines-based San Miguel Corporation and was commercially established as an ice cream brand in 1925. Magnolia. However, perhaps due also to the strong presence of other products carried under the Magnolia brand, such as chicken and milk, the Magnolia brand as an ice cream didn't resonate as strongly in people's minds in the broader market. Nestle brand by the Swiss multinational giant came in fourth in this study, although that's not without mentions of their ice cream specific sub-brands. So what were the other brands that came out? This chart shows the overall result. As you can see, some responses are sub-brands of manufacturing companies, which by itself is mentioned as an ice cream brand by others. There is Cornetto, which is under an umbrella brand Selecta, and Temptations, which is under Nestle. This also goes to show that while the levels of branding details may be a big deal for market players and marketing people, consumers are not always as particular. They tend to receive only what they can pick up. There are a few brands mentioned that some of us may not be familiar with because of non-availability or very limited purchase channels in the country. Remember, we also asked some foreign respondents as it's pretty representative of the population of BGC.
Okay, shoot.
Okay, alright. So yeah, what ice cream brand first comes to your mind?
Byers.
Byers?
Byerly's. I'm sorry, Byerly's.
Byerly's.
I'm American though, so okay.
31. Okay. It's a Japanese brand,
I
right?
don't know, but they have in the high school.
They have an ice cream.
Yeah.
Some interesting bits from the fieldwork. We had to disqualify and replace one of the tapped participants who mentioned working for one of the ice cream companies. Responses from participants who may be connected to any manufacturing firm or business partners of the product in study are usually not included or are disqualified because they could be partial to their brand and we are avoiding biased inputs in our data. Also, during the fieldwork, we avoided asking people from areas near the corporate offices of ice cream companies. That way, we don't catch survey participants who may be employees and who could then potentially give out a biased response. Participants approached in twos had to be reminded that it's perfectly okay if they each have a different brand in mind. We were trying to avoid responses that were merely influenced by another person. Capturing genuine responses per individual participant is important for data accuracy. If you mentioned a brand of an ice cream store, they are likely to only have seen around recently, considering that BGC has a couple of such stores like Cold Stone, Baskin Robbins, etc. So with this, brand awareness is merely influenced and may not be a genuine top-of-mind brand for them. In this case, we had to clarify, re-ask, and verify what ice cream brand first comes to their mind, disregarding the influence of merely seeing the store earlier.
Ano yung parang kayo sabi ice cream?
What ice cream brand first comes to your mind in this situation?
There were few who were confused between two brands, thinking that Drumstick and Cornetto are one and the same, when in fact, Drumstick is by Nestle and Cornetto is by Select.
What ice cream brand first comes to your mind in this hot summer weather?
Cold Stone.
Cold Stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe because it's right over there.
You just saw it. But without like seeing it, what comes to your mind?
Like a brand or
Yeah. What brand?
drumstick.
Drumstick.
Yeah.
What like any specific brand of the drumstick?
Drumstick is a brand.
It's a brand.
Yeah.
From what country?
The States.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Drumstick is a
I've
brand.
seen it here too, but you call it Cornell.
Cornetto.
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 Some mentioned a flavor outright, and we had to remind them that it's the brand being asked for and not the flavor. This was especially true among some of the kids.
Kung ice cream brand, yung unang pumapasok sa isip.
Ice cream brand. Hindi kasi ako sa chocolate.
Pistachio. Flavor. Ano pong ang flavor? Nestle.
Strawberry.
Strawberry. Ano ang tawag sa isang kapatid?
Few mentions of brands from smaller local manufacturers with limited distribution channels, usually within neighborhood dealership.
Dan Eric.
Dan Eric. Okay. Ano pong flavor? Anong flavor?
Cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream.
Interestingly, few had a tough time recalling a particular brand.
Ano pong brand? Ano pong tatak?
Nestle.
Unang pumapasok sa isip. Ice cream brand.
One voluntarily gave a reason for his answer, an ideal respondent for any researcher.
What ice cream brand first comes to your mind?
Few thought that we will be giving away ice cream.
Talaga meron. Okay.
Thank you po.
Sana ice cream.
Just a reminder, the results gathered in the survey only holds valid for a limited period of 6 months maximum, and it only covered the BGC area. It is not representative of the Philippines, Asia, and the world. Thank you. Subscribe and watch out for our second episode, which will have something to do with mobile apps.